revealed how a hidden act of kindness from his maid transformed this billionaire's life. David Lancaster was a name whispered in reverence across boardrooms and tech expos, a living testament to the American dream. Yet, as he stood alone in his penthouse, staring out at the sprawling concrete jungle of Manhattan, he battled an unsettling feeling of emptiness. His childhood in a modest Midwestern town, filled with warmth and love, clashed brutally with his current reality. The walls of success, intricately designed, felt more like a prison than a sanctuary. Climbing the ranks had cost him not only friendships, but also the family values he once held dear. Every day, as he navigated through meetings, conference calls, and gala events, a dissonance settled deep within him. The reverberating sound of applause only amplified the silence he felt inside. Was this the price of success? He could recite his accomplishments with ease, but when the accolades faded, he found himself drawn into a suffocating solitude. In the background, Maria moved about unnoticed, the immigrant maid tidying his pristine penthouse. Her life was a tapestry of struggle, each thread woven with the fabric of family and resilience. David barely acknowledged her presence, lost in a whirlwind of his own making. But one day, as her laughter rang out while she prepared lunch, his attention flickered. Her stories of family dinners and traditions seeped into his consciousness, contrasting sharply with the emotional void around him. Before he knew it, Maria's warmth began chipping away at the defenses built from years of corporate warfare. Each shared moment, a gentle nudge toward the memories he had buried beneath ambition. The small kindnesses she offered, a homemade meal, a simple smile, started to resonate. What was once dismissive curiosity grew into an appreciation he found difficult to articulate. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Yet, the calm cracked. News broke like a wildfire. His closest business partner had betrayed him, leaving David reeling with doubt and fear. The public fury was eclipsing him, clawing desperately at the carefully constructed facade of his empire. What had he built if one act of treachery could shatter it all? Desperation morphed into a gut-wrenching realization: who were his friends, and were any of them truly loyal? His sense of identity whirred dangerously, a frantic mind racing to find stability amidst chaos. The pressure was mounting. Could he hold on to his shattered reputation, or would he become yet another casualty of greed? But curiosity gnawed at him, a latent understanding that Maria's family, intertwined with his company's origins, had sacrificed for his success. He had unwittingly overlooked the roots that had supported his rise. As he prepared to confront the board, an inconceivable agony twisted in his gut. At this crucial moment, daring to confront the embodiment of betrayal and greed felt simultaneously invigorating and terrifying. Could he reclaim his life, tethering himself again to the values he once cherished? The impending board meeting loomed like a dark cloud, heavy with the weight of unresolved pain and moral obligation. The clock ticked louder, each second amplifying the growing tempest within. David stood at the precipice of a radical shift, with no clear path in sight, only a swirling abyss of doubt that threatened to consume him whole. The morning light filtered weakly through the penthouse windows, casting muted shadows that mirrored David's inner turmoil. As he dressed for the board meeting, each button fastened felt like a weight, reinforcing the solemn reality of his predicament. The betrayal of his partner dug deeper than the financial loss. It was a metaphorical dagger thrust into the heart of trust and connection, leaving David questioning every relationship he had cultivated on his ascent. Arriving at the boardroom, the air was thick with expectation and anxiety, punctuated by the low murmurs of his directory team. They were assembled, a mix of disbelief and eager curiosity reflected in their eyes. He could feel their anticipation, an electric current pulsing through the room. David steeled himself, taking a deep breath as he entered, a calculated move to anchor himself in the present, not succumbing to the shadows of his past. With a brisk nod, David initiated the meeting. Thank you all for coming on such short notice. I am aware of the disquiet stemming from the recent scandal. His voice, though steady, held an undercurrent of vulnerability. It frightened him that he might not be the leader they believed him to be. But a flicker of Maria's laughter so vibrant and full of life ignited a spark of resilience within him. He needed to transform this mere confrontation into something constructive. He opened the floor for discussion, listening intently as the board members voiced their concerns. Some feared losing their positions, others worried about the company's future. Yet, one voice cut through the noise. A junior analyst, who till now had sat quietly in the shadows, spoke up. David, your vision brought us all here. What was lost in this betrayal isn't just equity, it's the integrity of our core values. We need to redefine them together instead of caving to fear. Her words struck a chord. In moments of silence, David absorbed the truth woven into her perspective. The betrayal was not just a hurdle. It was, paradoxically, a chance to recalibrate and reconnect with the ideals that originally fueled his fire. Perhaps his rise to the pinnacle had muted the very essence of his leadership, collaboration, and community. After deliberating for what felt like hours, the decision crystallized. They would announce a strategic overhaul, one pivoting towards authentic ethics and transparency. David felt momentum building, a renewed determination surging through him as he laid out the bold plans, delineating steps to rebuild trust not just externally with shareholders, but internally among the very fabric of the company. He would be transparent, fostering open communication lines, perhaps even create a mentorship program to encourage unity and shared values within the teams. As the meeting adjourned, he felt the weight that had suffocated him dissipate, captured by a profound sense of agency that had eluded him for so long. Instead of feeling like a victim of circumstances, he had reclaimed ownership of his narrative. He understood now that true leadership stemmed from vulnerability and the power of collective resilience. Walking out of the boardroom, David's mind was abuzz with the potential his revelations had unlocked. He realized that each moment he spent with Maria had been a silent crash course in humility and connection, the very qualities he had overlooked in his relentless pursuit of success. He felt the desire to reach out to her, to share his newfound perspective, perhaps even to involve her in the company's revival. However, as he stepped into the elevator, a text message lit up his phone. A headline splashed across the news feeds. Lancaster's actions raised questions. Loyalty in crisis. The storm was far from over. His journey was just beginning. Now came the true test of integrity, a quest that would demand confronting not only the external challenges, but the internal battles that had shaped him. How far was he willing to go to align his professional world with his values? The answers loomed on the horizon, casting their shadows over a path yet untraveled. David stepped into his office, the sunlight now fully illuminating the sleek lines and modern decor that had once felt like a symbol of his hard-earned success. Today, however, it was merely a facade of a man attempting to hold together the threads of a fraying tapestry. The weight of impending decisions pressed on him like never before. The urgency of the situation ignited a greater determination. He could no longer afford the luxury of passivity. He needed to initiate real change. Sinking into the ergonomic chair that felt less comforting than usual, he reflected on the turbulent meeting. The words of the junior analyst echoed in his mind, challenging his long-ignored values. He pulled out a notebook, wanting to crystallize his thoughts. As he jotted down ideas for a new mentorship program, he felt the adrenaline of creating something purposeful. His phone vibrated again, another news alert. This one reported further inquiries into not just his partner's actions, but hinted at the people orchestrating them. His heart quickened, paranoia seeped in. Who could be next? Who else could be involved? Doubts swirled, but he quelled them, focusing instead on formulating a message of hope and resilience for his team amidst uncertainty. In that moment, he recognized a growing desire to work collaboratively. He envisioned roundtable discussions, where everyone regardless of rank could contribute thoughts on restoring integrity. Each voice would matter, reinforcing the idea of a shared destiny. He knew he still had supporters. The question was whether they would trust him again. With newfound clarity, he sent out an invitation to his entire team for a brainstorming session the following day, an open dialogue promising no judgment, merely collaboration. As he pressed send, his His anxiety lessened. He was shifting from a lone figure under siege to a leader supported by the foundation of unity. Leaving the office for the day felt lighter. David made his way to Maria's apartment, each step charged with purpose. He had spent too long overlooking her influence in his life. If anyone could offer him an authentic perspective, it was her. Perhaps she could even guide him on implementing a mentorship initiative, giving employees someone relatable to look up to, a step toward genuine connection, a reflection of his evolving values. Her laughter resonated in his memory, reminding him how her sincerity and compassion bridged uncomfortable conversations he once avoided. He arrived at her building, taking a moment to gather himself. It was now or never. When she opened the door, her surprise melted into warmth, the genuine smile igniting a spark within him. "David, what a pleasant surprise," she said, ushering him inside. He wasted no time. "I need your help, Maria," he began, the urgency in his voice startling even him. "I'm at a critical juncture, and I want to change how things are done at my company, to realign it with values that truly matter. I could use your insight. Your experience is invaluable." Her expression shifted, enthusiasm flooding her features. "Of course, I'd love to help. Tell me more about what you're envisioning." As he poured out his plans for the company's future, David noticed a deeper connection forming. Each idea he shared fueled his passion, reflecting not just strategy, but a yearning to instill sincerity and connection into his professional landscape. But as the conversation reached a pivotal point, a sudden text notification drew his attention. It was from a number he didn't recognize, but its content jolted him cold. "I know what you're planning. Watch your back." David's heart sank, the weight of his newfound aspirations now shadowed by the reality of opposition. The shadows were closing in, and he would need to confront them head-on. What lay ahead was an escalating battle, not just against those lurking in the dark, but within the very fabric of who he believed himself to be. Was he prepared for what was to come? His resolve would soon be put to the test. David stared at the message flashing on his screen, a pulse of dread coursing through him. He couldn't dismiss it as idle threat. The stakes felt too high, and the timing too coincidental. The warmth of Maria's encouragement began to fade, replaced by an icy grip of anxiety. What forces were aligning against him? He had ventured into a realm of genuine ambition and moral rectitude, but now the specter of danger loomed, casting a long shadow over his aspirations. He switched his phone to silent, gripping the edge of the coffee table as he struggled to regain focus. How had he come to this moment? Anxiety had crept in unnoticed, turning his mission into a precarious balancing act. He needed to maintain composure, not just for himself, but for the sake of the team he intended to rally. Questions whirled in his mind. Who knew about his plans? What did they want from him? To refocus, David closed his eyes, breathing in deeply, trying to channel the conviction he had felt just moments before. He couldn't let this external chaos derail his internal mission. "This is bigger than you," he thought, recalling how easy it was to associate his professional journey with his own self-worth. He needed to redefine that completely. "Let us table that for now," he said, turning back to Maria. "What do you think about a mentorship initiative with clear benchmarks and support systems? It would create a positive feedback loop for everyone involved." Maria nodded eagerly, her enthusiasm reigniting David's own passion. They began mapping out what the program could look like. Music from a distant apartment wafted through the open window, creating an upbeat backdrop for their productivity. Ideas flowed, and together they built a framework that paired experienced mentors with junior employees, emphasizing communication and vulnerability. Yet, a whisper of doubt nagged at David. How could he inspire trust when his own foundation felt so unstable? The organization's integrity had been compromised, and although he could push forward with this initiative, the forces threatening him loomed ominously. Could the sincerity of new programs overshadow the tarnished reputation he struggled with? As they sketched out an outline on a notepad, an uncomfortable realization dawned on him. Forging bonds took time. His team was still grieving the organization's recent missteps. Would they even be willing to embrace such changes under his leadership? "David?" Maria's voice snapped him back. "You seem distant. What is really going on?" He hesitated, necessitating a pivot toward vulnerability he had tucked away for too long. "I'm feeling the weight of what's at stake. I want to transform our company, but I worry if anyone will believe that I'm genuine after everything that has happened. I don't want to lead people into a catastrophe." Her gaze softened, the concern in her eyes grounding him. "You're not just talking about change for others. You're addressing your own transformation too. Leadership is as much about self-awareness as it is about changing systems. Own your past mistakes. Let them guide your new vision rather than haunt it." The clarity in her words struck something deep within. For the first time, he realized he couldn't shield himself from past failures, but could instead leverage them as tools for growth. What if he opened up to his team about his mistakes? Could vulnerability become his strength? Maria's enthusiasm reignited a determination within. He would disclose his past struggles in that brainstorming session, not as a weakness, but as an example of resilience. If he could stand before his team with honesty, it could galvanize them to share their own stories as they wrapped up the night. David felt a flicker of hope amidst the chaos. The obstacles ahead felt daunting, but for the first time, he understood that transformation required partnership. Every challenge was an opportunity to engage others, to finish the work he had begun. Just as they were about to step out, David's phone buzzed again. It was another message, this one even more ominous than the last. "The clock is ticking." His stomach twisted. Something was brewing, and it was time to make a decision. He couldn't hide from the impending confrontation. Would he face the storm with his emerging new self or retreat back into the shadows he fought so hard to escape? The moment had come to confront the threat head-on, making peace with the knowledge that he was still evolving. David took a moment to steady himself, the weight of the message threatening to topple his newly forged resolve. He stood at a crossroads, grappling with the fear of exposure and the desire for acceptance. Turning back to Maria, he felt a sudden swell of determination. "We need to present this program," he said, voice firmer than he felt inside. "The sooner, the better. I want to open that dialogue, despite the risks." Maria stared at him, her eyes a blend of admiration and concern. "You know the stakes, David. You're willing to expose your vulnerability, but can your team handle it? They might not be ready." "I don't think we can afford to wait," he replied, a fire igniting within him. "Change isn't easy, but it's necessary. If I don't take the first step, how will they?" In the days that followed, David dedicated himself to refining the mentorship initiative. Every hour spent building the program also fueled a deep reflection on his past decisions. He reached out to colleagues, arranging meetings to share what he had in mind. Each discussion brought with it a flurry of mixed responses. Supporters championed him, while skeptics questioned his sincerity. The deliberation transformed into a tangible tension that followed him everywhere, whispering doubts that gnawed at the edges of his consciousness. Yet amidst the anxiety, there were moments of unexpected clarity. During one meeting, a junior employee shared an idea that illuminated the path ahead, a suggestion to hold an informal gathering to introduce the mentorship program. "We need an event," he said, "one where we can be honest, together. Let the walls down." That resonated deeply with David. The idea of creating a space where stories could be shared, vulnerabilities laid bare, felt like a breakthrough. It was a necessary step for his own catharsis and an opportunity to foster connections that could heal the fractures within the team. He realized that transforming the organization required collective vulnerability. Trust could flourish in a garden watered by shared experience. However, navigating this route meant confronting the creeping shadows of his past. The fear of being judged haunted him. What if all of his revelations weren't met with empathy, but skepticism instead? He questioned whether he had earned the right to lead such discussions, or whether he would be seen as a fraud, a man who had once been caught in a web of mistakes and ethical lapses. Days melted into nights as David strategized how to approach the session, rehearsing his narrative in front of a mirror. He felt the rawness of his past clawing to surface. The intent was to inspire, but the memories felt like weight dragging him down. Nonetheless, each rehearsal layered his resolve, hinting at a revelation he hadn't fully grasped yet. Vulnerability might illuminate a path to growth, both for him and for those he sought to uplift. When the day of the gathering arrived, David stood before the assembled team, heart pounding. He felt raw and exposed, facing them without the protective veneer of leadership he once relied on. Would they hear him, or would his weaknesses overshadow his vision? As he began to speak, honesty poured out, unfiltered and pure. He shared both the triumphs and failures that marked his journey. The more he spoke, the more he felt the shackles of doubt fall away, replaced by a sense of relief that he hadn't anticipated in that moment. He wasn't just presenting a program. He was inviting them to confront their own truths. The murmurs of discomfort were replaced by shared confessions, stories pouring forth like a shared bloodline. They were all imperfect, yet their common humanity created a bridge toward a united purpose. As he concluded, a sense of liberation washed over him. But just as he settled into this newfound freedom, a new message pinged on his phone. It was cryptic yet unsettling. "You've stepped into the light. I hope you're prepared for what comes next." David's heart raced anew. With each step forward came an unseen ripple, and the stakes now felt impossibly high. What was on the horizon? What had he unwittingly unleashed with his revelation? The tide of transformation was beckoning, but the danger lurking in the shadows had not vanished. The storm was brewing, and David was at its eye, ready to confront whatever came next. David stared at his phone for an agonizing moment, the cryptic message pulsating in his mind. What could it mean? Each word echoed like a drumbeat, setting a tense rhythm in his chest. The exhilaration from liberating himself in front of his team quickly morphed into an anxious knot, the thrill of vulnerability subverted by an ominous feeling. But he wouldn't let fear take the reins again, not when he felt the momentum shifting. He had laid his soul bare, exposed the fractures, and filled the air with honesty. That hadn't come without a cost. He knew that. What he hadn't expected was how liberating that honesty felt. It had ignited a flicker of courage, urging him to confront whatever challenge awaited him. He snapped back to the present. Leaving the meeting room, David felt the need to lean into this apprehension, to figure out the best way to respond. He tapped away on his phone, wrestling with the impulse to reach out to the unknown sender. Was it a threat or simply a misguided warning? He paused, locking his phone. Some fights were worth instigating. Others required strategy and calm. Turning his focus to his team and the aftermath of their gathering, David learned that several colleagues enjoyed a deeper connection with each other, opting to embark on mentorship pairings unprompted. It was a quiet victory, yet the successes were laced with the uncertainty of how deep the organizational malaise ran. Each triumph felt like a fragile bubble, floating on a turbulent sea of potential backlash. That evening, consumed by thoughts of the day and the mysterious message, David revisited the building blocks of the mentorship program. Each adjustment he proposed felt more personal, taking cues not just from the previous leadership failures, but also from the vulnerabilities shared. The trust he was fostering seemed crucial in transmuting professional relationships into more meaningful ones. Yet there was an even deeper layer to process. The message had rattled him. It implicated a disparate part of his life that he fought to compartmentalize. Undoubtedly, he had made poor choices in the past, choices that lingered like whispers of regret. Had they finally caught up to him? The act of being transparent and vulnerable hadn't just opened him up to acceptance. It had unlatched a door to his past. The following day, David decided to seek counsel from Maria, the one person he felt had consistently steered him through stormy waters. He scheduled a lunch, mindful of the delicate balance between work and personal revelations, knowing this conversation was pivotal. Would she appreciate the progress he had made or focus on the risks he had ignited? As they sat across the table in the small cafe, David couldn't shake off the unsettling weight of the message. Between sips of coffee, he hesitated, searching for the right words to express his unease. "Maria, something happened yesterday," he began, his voice strained with urgency. "After the meeting, I received a message that deeply unsettled me. It implied that I'm being watched and that there are consequences to my actions." She leaned in, her eyes narrowing with concern. "Who sent it? Do you have any idea?" "I don't know," David admitted, frustration bubbling under his calm facade. "I thought I was moving forward, and now I feel like I've sown the seeds of a new reckoning. Have I invited trouble by drawing back the curtain?" Maria regarded him thoughtfully, her brow furrowing as she processed this new threat. "You can't go back to hiding, David. You've taken a monumental step by being honest with yourself and your team. But you also need to be prepared for fallout. Confront it head-on before it consumes you." His stomach twisted at her words. Just as he was beginning to stand tall, a specter of the past threatened to drag him down again. As their conversation deepened, David suddenly realized a crucial decision lay before him. Would he confront the sender directly, or should he focus on fortifying his newfound mentorship initiative against whatever backlash loomed? The tension in his mind felt like a taut string ready to snap. His heart raced with determination. The unknown sender might be trying to rattle him, but he refused to let fear dictate his next move. It was time to uncover the truth and protect the fragile light he had ignited within his team. David glanced at Maria, a determination settling in his eyes. I need to investigate. We must discover who this is and what they want from me. I won't allow my past to overshadow the future I'm building. The resolve surged within him. Yet as he turned his phone over, he noticed another message light up the screen, a photo. Unclear, but unmistakably related to his past. This was not over. It was only just beginning. Whose hand had turned the screws? And how far would David have to go to ensure he remained true to himself? The air buzzed with potential and peril in equal measure. David gripped his phone tightly, his determination shifting into overdrive. The unfamiliar photo illuminated his screen, tugging at buried memories he wished he could forget. A moment of hesitation took hold as he pondered the implications of his past resurfacing, but he quickly flicked to the image. His pulse quickened as a wave of recognition crashed over him. It wasn't just a photo. It was a fragment of the life he'd attempted to outrun, a stark reminder that the world often had a way of tying up loose ends when least expected. What does this mean? He whispered, mostly to himself as the weight of inquiry slipped into the empty cafe booth. Maria's concerned gaze pulled him back to the conversation at hand. She leaned closer, sensing the turmoil bubbling beneath his veneer of composure. Is it someone from your past? She asked, her tone a blend of curiosity and caution. It was precisely the support he needed, but it also revealed a challenging truth he had to confront what had once been buried. This tug-of-war between his recent vulnerabilities and long-held secrets now demanded a choice. Either retreat into silence or step into the blinding light of transparency one more time. The photo is from a time I thought was behind me. Back when I made decisions that affected not only me but those around me. He confessed, his voice lower now as he wrestled with conflicting emotions. The shadows of regret began to swirl, pulling him deep enough to make him nearly drown in what-ifs. There had been good intentions, he reminded himself, but ultimately human fallibility loomed larger than humility. Maria, perceptive as always, probed further. Finding out who sent it could be crucial, David. It may be a signal that your past mistakes are still affecting your present. You need to actively shape this narrative, or it will shape you. Her words ignited an ember of resolve. A plan began to crystallize in David's mind. With a calculated mix of urgency and caution, he needed to address the picture and the accompanying threat. But how? The tightrope he walked between professional integrity and personal revelation was precarious. If he reached out to someone from his past, would it only inflame old wounds? Or could this be the moment he converted fear into fuel for transformation? Maybe it's time to reach out, he decided aloud, feeling a sense of clarity emerging. I need to know if this is just a simple reminder or a real threat to everything I've built. I can't allow the past to dictate my present any longer. Maria nodded, her expression shifting between encouragement and wariness. Just remember, confronting your past may not yield the answers you expect. This could become messy. Are you prepared for that? David took a steadying breath. The echoes of his previous life resonated in the recesses of his mind, yet he met this challenge with growing determination. He had faced down the fear of vulnerability in the workplace. Could he do the same with remnants of his past? He rose from the table, the decision solidifying like steel within him. He would contact Clara, the only person with details that might lead him to the source behind the shadows. It would be risky, exposing the cracks he had worked so hard to hide. But he was aware now that facing the truth was the only way to truly embrace his future. As he stepped into the bustling city street, the synchronicity of the everyday world contrasted starkly with the frenzy brewing inside him. Each footfall echoed with purpose, drawing him toward an inevitable confrontation. But just as he reached for his phone to make the call, another notification chimed. A new message from an unknown number. He hesitated, the weight of the previous message still dominating his thoughts. This was getting messier by the moment. His heart thudded in his chest as he read the opening line. You don't know who I am, but I know where you've been. And if you think you can walk away unscathed, you have another thing coming. David felt the ground shift beneath him. The past was not only watching, it was ready to confront him head-on. What would he have to sacrifice to finally break free and reclaim the narrative that had long been penned for him? As urgency flooded his veins, there was no turning back. The time had come to face the demons hiding in the shadows. David stood still, the pulse of the city humming around him, yet his world felt eerily muted. That message so stark, so threatening was not just a call to action, it was a reckoning with choices long thought buried. The weight of its implications pressed heavily upon him, challenging his current life and everything he'd built upon years of hard work and careful construction. He took a deep breath and forced his thoughts away from the harrowing implications of the message. This was not the time to succumb to panic. It was the moment to devise a plan. The task now was clear. He needed to reach out to Clara, despite the cold familiarity of fear curling around him like smoke. In confronting the past, perhaps he could liberate himself from its grip. As he navigated through crowds, a renewed sense of purpose began to form within him. The chaos of the city mirrored the turmoil in his mind, people rushing by, each oblivious to his internal storm. He sought clarity amidst the chaos, replaying conversations he had, and second-guessing memories he thought were resolved. But what was the true cost of this confrontation? Was he ready to uncover not just old mistakes, but also the deeper roots of his decisions? Understanding those roots could unlock hidden competencies he had yet to discover. But that was not the only risk. There lay before him a possibility of unearthing painful truths that would demand reckoning. Could he handle the emotional weight of them? In addition to the pressures of his present life, the office tower loomed ahead, a fortress of glass and steel. David paused at the entrance, feeling the cooling breath of AC wash over him as he stepped inside. The sharp click of his shoes on the marble floors echoed his heartbeat, each step a reminder of the stakes he faced. He had spent years building his professional reputation, a life that seemed distant from the shadows of his past. Yet those very shadows were now on the threshold, anxious to reclaim him. As he approached his office, a sense of déjà vu washed over him. Different versions of himself flitted through his mind, past David who staggered under the weight of unaddressed responsibilities and past failures. But who was present David? Would he allow fear to dictate this moment too? He steadied his nerves and made the call. Clara answered after a few rings, her voice familiar yet foreign. It's been a while. He paused, disoriented by memories of lighter times they shared before life pulled them in different directions. Clara, I received something today, a photo. I think it's someone from our past trying to reach me. I need your help. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating, before she responded. What do you want to know? Her calm demeanor contradicted the chaos swirling inside him. He felt urgency surge once more. I need to understand what happened back then. Please, can we meet? She hesitated. It's not just a walk down memory lane, David. Some things are best left in the past, no matter how much you wish to revisit them. Her words struck him. Was he on the verge of reopening wounds that would bleed him dry? In grappling with his past, could he possibly reveal qualities within himself he had yet to unlock? Clara, I need this, he insisted, an unexpected desperation creeping into his voice. I can't move forward if I don't confront the truth, whatever it may be. He sensed a softening on the other end. Okay, but be prepared. We need to meet now. You must brace yourself. The weight of her words gripped him. The gravity of the situation was undeniable. Meeting with Clara could lay the foundational truth beneath his convictions, but it also had the potential to unravel everything he thought he knew. With newfound resolve, he set a time and place for their meeting. As he hung up, a strange calm settled in, alleviating some of the pressure gripping him. He would no longer be paralyzed by the echoes of yesterday. But as he turned to leave the office, his phone buzzed again, illuminating the screen with another ominous message. I hope you're ready to take responsibility for your actions. You can't escape what you owe. David felt the tremors of uncertainty creep in once more. He had aimed to own his story, yet new dangers emerged with every decision. What awaited him in the depths of this confrontation? And as he prepared to uncover layers of his identity, was he equally prepared to face the ultimate repercussions? David left the office with the ominous message still vibrating through his mind. The city smelled sharp in the late afternoon sun, an air of expectation crackling through the streets as he made his way to the cafe where he and Clara had agreed to meet. Time felt fragmented. Every step was a reminder of the decisions that had brought him here, the past colliding fiercely with the present. As he walked, he reflected on his career successes, the accolades he had earned, and the respect he had built in the corporate world. Each milestone underscored a version of himself he had fought hard to cultivate, yet the shadows of his choices lurked behind his ambitions like storm clouds ready to unleash their fury. What if confronting Clara peeled back layers he had carefully constructed? He reached the cafe and spotted Clara through the glass windows. She sat at a corner table, her posture unimposing but brimming with an unyielding strength that reminded him of their shared past. As he entered, she looked up, her expression inscrutable. There had always been complexity in their relationship, with a mix of camaraderie and unresolved tension from their shared history. "Hi," he managed, his voice slightly cracking under the weight of emotion he fought to suppress. "Thanks for meeting me." Clara nodded, setting her cup down. "Let us cut to the chase. You've been running away from this for years, David. What do you think you'll find?" His heart raced, a mix of apprehension and resolve. "I want to understand what happened, why we ended up where we are now." The atmosphere thickened with unspoken truths. Clara tilted her head, scrutinizing him. "You think you can just uncover the past and expect everything to fall into place? Life doesn't always allow for that." "Maybe," he countered, an edge of determination creeping into his tone. "But I have to try. I can't keep avoiding it. It's screaming at me to confront it." In silence, Clara wrestled with his words, her eyes reflecting memories of an era that had shaped them both. Finally, she leaned forward. "You were always the star, the one everyone looked to. But what were you hiding behind that facade?" The tension spiraled deeper. David was confronted with an unexpected layer of accountability. Clara's words dug into the heart of the matter. Who was he without the trappings of success? He felt exposed, the facade he'd built seeming less protective and more like a cage. "I thought being the best would shield me from my flaws," he admitted, each word a reluctant unveiling. "But now it feels like it's suffocating me." "Perhaps it's time to embrace those flaws, David," Clara suggested. "That's where growth happens. But it's up to you to bridge that gap." Her insights stirred something deep within him, illuminating a path he hadn't considered, one paved with uncertainty, but also the potential for genuine self-discovery. What if this conversation with Clara could unlock not just the truth they shared, but the underlying strengths and compassion that had long remained dormant within him? What if in facing my past, I uncover not just mistakes, but also what I truly stand for? He mused, contemplating the potential revelations just beyond the horizon of their conversation. For the first time, he sensed a shift. Perhaps confronting the ghosts of yesterday could serve as a catalyst for authentic transformation. But was he ready for the emotional responsibility that would come with it? Clara leaned back, her gaze steady. "If you're serious about this, there's more to discuss. We'll need to confront parts of our past that may not be easy to revisit." As she spoke, David's phone buzzed again, a fresh new message that shattered the growing clarity he felt. Unveil what lies beneath, or risk losing everything. The stakes were rising. Could he truly face this? Would he uncover layers of his identity that had remained hidden for too long? David took a deep breath, feeling both weighty and exhilarating at the thought of the uncharted journey before him. "I'm ready," he said, a firmness in his tone. "I owe it to myself to confront whatever comes." Next, he felt Clara's scrutinizing stare. Her confidence in him seemed to bolster his resolve. What truths awaited them, buried in the depths of their past? With each moment that passed, it became clearer that his hurry to reconstruct his narrative was just beginning. The real journey of accountability had yet to unfold. What new challenges would surface as they ventured deeper into the uncharted territory of their shared history? David sat quietly in his office, reflecting on the whirlwind of the past weeks. What had started as a crisis had become a profound opportunity for personal growth. He had faced betrayal and challenge not only from without, but also from within. Now, as he prepared for the final throes of this journey, he felt lighter, having shed the weight of old fears. The mentorship program was no longer just an initiative. It was a testament to his evolution. He had gathered his team, encouraging open dialogue and transparency, planting the seed of integrity that he had long overlooked. They were eager to begin, and he could sense a renewed energy in the company's culture. This was not merely about salvaging his reputation. It was about instilling a sense of shared purpose that echoed through the hallways and in the hearts of every employee. In the weeks following his initial meeting with Clara, David had reached out, not just to her, but to many colleagues from his past. Each confrontation sharpened his understanding, revealing the complexity of his journey, the choices that had defined him, and how they motivated his present aspirations. Where he once saw shadows, he now recognized the light that crested beyond them. The depth of his character that lay hidden beneath ambition's surface. As he approached the day of their final meeting, David took a moment to center himself. He knew what needed to be done. He would share the full truth, the mistakes, the lessons learned, the regret. It was time to stand unguarded, not merely as a leader, but as a human being navigating the intricate labyrinth of life alongside his team. He entered the conference room, where his team gathered, a mixture of anticipation and apprehension flickering in the air. Every person, there was a tapestry of their own stories, struggles, and successes. David realized that it was their vulnerability that could reinforce his newfound resolve, a cycle of honesty, fostering an authentic culture within the organization. Today, I want to share something important about my journey, he began, his voice steady despite the tremor beneath. I've made choices that impacted not just my life, but the lives of those around me. I've hidden behind accolades and titles, but today, I stand before you, not just as your CEO, but as someone who has stumbled and grown from those stumbles. As he spoke, he witnessed his colleagues lean in, absorbed by his authenticity. Each personal anecdote served to stitch a bond among them, revealing that their individual experiences collectively contributed to a more profound connection. Moments of shared laughter and hushed confessions punctuated the atmosphere, transforming the otherwise sterile conference room into a space of communal healing. The meeting reached a pivotal climax when he invited others to share their stories, acknowledging that their collective vulnerabilities would build a foundation of trust going forward. What he hadn't expected was the floodgate that would open. His peers stepped forward with their own tales of challenges, missteps, and revelations, igniting a spark of empathy even more powerful than he could have fathomed. "Thank you for trusting me with your stories," he concluded, a depth of respect reflected in his gaze. This wasn't a victory only for him. It was a transformative moment for the organization, a realization that their strength lay not in perfection, but in their shared humanity. As the meeting concluded, David felt a surge of accomplishment. They had forged connections that could not merely enhance productivity, but foster loyalty and understanding throughout the company. This shift was not only a pivotal moment for business, but also a validation of who David had become. A leader not defined by past mistakes, but one who embraced vulnerability as a profound strength. Later that evening, David strolled home, the city sparkling beneath the twilight sky. He felt unshackled from the confines of his previous self. He had conquered the demons of his past and transformed them into lessons for a brighter future. For the first time in years, he felt grounded by authenticity, resting in the power of connection. His phone buzzed as he approached his building. Another message, but this one felt different. With a sense of newfound resilience, he opened it. "I see you're on a better path. Keep walking it. The shadows don't control you." A smile broke across his face, for the first time realizing that the shadows could only loom if he allowed them to. He had not just achieved professional growth, but had embarked on a courageous personal journey that would resonate far beyond the walls of any office. David paused, taking a deep breath. The path he had forged was one of integrity, openness, and life-affirming courage. As he entered his apartment, he knew he would continue to embrace challenges as opportunities, transforming not just himself, but those around him. This was his true legacy, to model a leader emerging not from perfection, but from the richness of the human experience. He had risen, not in the absence of struggle, but in the heart of it. This moment was theirs to own, their journey, their stories intertwined. Cultivating a culture of resilience ahead. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment with your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for personal overcoming stories. Don't wait even one more second to share.